Charles Albright is suspected in the murders of 3 women, leaving his mark by removing their eyes. Investigators are desperate for physical evidence to tie him to the murders. Then, Officers Smith and Matthews find what could be the final piece of the puzzle.
During that investigative process, I encountered one prostitute in North Oak Cliff by the name of Tina Connolly. Tina Connolly was Shirley Williams' best friend, and the last time she saw Shirley Williams was the very night that she was killed.
Tina Connolly saw Charles Albright that night. She didn't want anything to do with him. She left. Shirley Williams was the only other prostitute working. When she got back, Shirley was gone. Tina Connolly had said, the last thing I saw her wearing was a yellow raincoat.
She told us of a field down the street from the motel where Shirley was picked up the night she was murdered. She used to take Albright on dates in this field. We immediately went down there hoping to find evidence that may have been from the night of Shirley's murder. During our search of the field, there was a large pile of trash in the middle of the field with plywood, and it was just brown and gray. But sticking out of that, Gina saw a yellow raincoat.
It had blood and everything, and I just knew that was Shirley Williams' blood in there.
The yellow raincoat was a lot of dried blood, but it had been exposed to the sun and the elements. There was no further DNA testing could be done on it.
They started examining it and were able to take some hairs from the raincoat.
There were these strange animal hairs found that it took a while for our forensic analysts to figure out. It turned out it was squirrel tail hair. In Charles Albright's house, investigators took his vacuum cleaner bag. The same squirrel tail hair was found in Charles Albright's vacuum cleaner. Also found in that vacuum cleaner were 8 head hairs that had the same characteristics as Shirley Williams.
It's exactly the piece of evidence they've been looking for. And several weeks later, police get results back from the lab that analyzed the hairs found on Shirley Williams' body.
They were a match. They had enough evidence to charge him with the murders. There was a lot of pieces put together to build a case to convince a jury.
As the trial begins, prosecutors decide their best strategy is to try Albright only for Shirley Williams' murder.
The primary case was the murder of Shirley Williams. That's where we had the most evidence. Her final act to try to fight for her life actually resulted in evidence that convicted her killer. Once we got the guilty verdict, we knew what the punishment would be. So that jury was going to give him life, and they didn't waste any time sentencing to a life sentence.
It was big news in Dallas, and the community were so thankful that we had caught him. Now they could relax because this prolific killer has been captured.